Part of me wants to say I've always been a Christian. I grew up in the church. I mean, I don't ever remember a time of not going to church. My childhood was, I guess, relatively normal, but parts of it weren't normal. My father died when I was 8 years old, and me and my mom moved in with her parents. So it was a big change from Atlanta down to South Florida. But even through all that, the one constant was I always went to church. Even when I got to college, I mean, I wasn't the greatest kid in the world, I'll tell you that. And I really wasn't ready to be on my own. I proved that numerous times through college. Got out of college and kind of fell away from going to church for a while. Got married, and a friend of mine on the police department lived next door to us. Said, hey, we've been going to this church down the road. Y'all want to come with us? It happened to be a Methodist church. I'd always been a Methodist. Like, sure, we'll go. And I started going to church because that's what you did. You went to church. So I sat in church a lot. And I learned a lot of stuff too. I like to read, I like to learn stuff, and I had a whole lot of knowledge about the Bible. Got to the point I was even teaching Sunday school. So I was in church a lot. I sat in church a lot, but sitting in church doesn't make you a Christian anymore. And sitting in a garage makes you a car. Thought a lot of myself, because obviously I was really into this church thing. I knew what was going on, but at the same time, the lifestyle wasn't quite right. I've been a policeman my entire adult life. That's what I've done, and I've done a lot of things in that profession I'm just not that proud of. The way you've treated some people, the way you've dealt with some situations, and it's things that don't jive with the Christian faith. And I kind of knew that deep down inside, that this knowledge I had in my head didn't quite fit with the kind of lifestyle I had, as far as the way I was treating people as a policeman, the way I was treating my friends. It didn't mesh. But for me, I was still going to church, so that's cool. I'm going to church. And I've got all this knowledge in my head, everything's cool. But other than the times like on Sunday mornings when I was teaching Sunday school, and Sundays when I was sitting in church, that's about it. From then I would leave, and probably nobody had any clue except for the people in my Sunday school class that I would consider myself a Christian. People just didn't see that in me, I don't think, at work or anywhere else. It just wasn't something that was obvious to them. Then one day this guy asked me, he said, hey, have you ever heard of this retreat? Something called Walk to Emmaus. That story of Emmaus is, two guys walking from Jerusalem to Emmaus, and this guy shows up and walks with them. And, he says, hey, what's going on? What's going on? You haven't heard what happened the past 3 days? And they told him all about the story about Jesus being crucified and then being seen and risen from the dead. And then he got down to dinner with them that night in this place in Emmaus, and when he broke bread with him, he disappeared. And it said their hearts burned within them because they suddenly realized that guy that was with them that whole day was Jesus. It was that weekend that all this knowledge I had in my head, all this stuff I knew, kind of moved out of my head and down into my heart. I realized that I had the Christian thing had to do with more than just Sunday. That all that knowledge in my head meant nothing. That I had to take it beyond that. I had to go somewhere else. A guy used to be here that used to be pastor, Ben Kimford, showed up, and he just came to me one day and said, "Hey man, you ever thought about working with youth?" No. He says, well, we're going to have some sound stuff going on. I need guys to work sound. I've always been able to do that. I've always been able to work the soundboard and help out that kind of stuff. And started working with it. And so I started figuring out I kind of like this, and started figuring out that knowledge that moved from my head to my heart was translating itself into the service of being hands and feet for Christ and doing that kind of work. I think that if I had to put my finger on the biggest change in my life between before then and now is how I see people. I used to see people just through the eyes of a police officer. I was suspicious of everybody. There was us and there was them. Us being the cops and them being everybody else. And that's the lenses I saw things through. I saw things through my experiences as a police officer. I've always been suspicious of everybody. Now I see people through the eyes of Christ. Now I see people through the eyes of Jesus. I don't see a hobo. I don't see a bum. I don't see some guy that's just some piece of crap that I've got don't want to touch, don't want to get near. I don't want to arrest him because that would mean I have to get near him and touch him. I just want to ignore him. I don't see that guy. I see the guy that Christ sees. I see his creation. I see this guy that he loves, that's down and out on his luck, but he just needs some help. He needs to be loved, and that's the difference. I think the biggest one I see between then and now is how I look at people and how I look at the world.